figure out how to get the link for you.
Also, Yenni, if there's
preparing to live stream.
If you want me to assist you with that, just let me know.
Oh yeah, this is I'm just shoving it out on all of the HFM and my media, like Facebook and Twitter.
You were better.
We're going live.
All right, let's do it.
Heads up. Or it's still doing the Lodi circle. I don't know. I don't know if this is all gonna be caught on it or not.
Faith.
And I think here. Okay, so I will go into presentation mode and we're live. Welcome to our Sunday Night Live. Tonight we're hosting our very own Yenni, who is it? I know I will always say this wrong. Worcester? Worcester City Council. She's running for her local Worcester City Council in Massachusetts. So it's going to be great to chat with her at the end about, what it's like to run a small local campaign rather than just these bigger congressional campaigns we've all been kind of focused on for the past year. But we're going to start with a quick little introduction, some updates about our board election coming up, and the cash advocacy actions that are ongoing in our community right now. And then we'll get right into our AMA. And then next week, we will have the board election on February 28th at 8:30 on this call, and tentative hoping to get somebody from Rank the Vote here to talk. That's not for sure, though. I'm just hopeful. If not next week, then another week. So if you aren't aware of what HFM is, it's a organization and group of volunteers that basically grew out of Yang's 2020 congressional race. The Yang Gang just wasn't ready to stop when he did, so they kept going. Yenni is in fact one of the co-founders. If you're interested to join and get involved, you can join our Slack at the bit.ly HFM join Slack link. You can find your state chapter on our website if you want to connect locally, or if you're a college student, there's a college network now growing as well called Forward Growth for America that you can get in touch with. You can also hop over onto the HFRR Slack with Humanity Forward, our partners. If you want to find out about Yang's mayoral campaign, go to his website, watch previous Sunday Night Lives on our YouTube channel. We live stream all of these and they're there, so you can always go back and see ones that you've missed. Check out our social media, HF Movement, and upcoming next week is the board election. I have these in the wrong order again. We will be electing 4 members for a 6-month term. So 4 people are leaving. That's Brendan, Gray, Kevin, and myself. And then we have 3 continuing, which are Angelo, Hannah, and Will. So these 4 slots will be up for election. Like I said, you have the 6-month commitment, but some of the other kind of requirements are that you've attended some of these national meetings. Ideally, you've attended 3 national meetings in the 3 months prior to the election. Our partner income movements meeting, that can count for one of those. There's a lot of opportunity to meet that threshold. And once you're serving, you're expected to, have a daily presence on Slack and checking in. Attending an average of about 10 meetings a month and making it's a pretty serious time commitment. So just put that out there. And then there's these reference docs here about the minimum requirements and advice from previous board members. The timeline, this candidacy form is open, so you can go to this link right here and submit yourself if you want to run. That form will be closing at midnight on Wednesday, midnight Pacific time, so like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. or whatever Eastern time on Thursday. The candidates will then be announced in the announcements channel on our Slack. So you can check it out, read those statements. We'll have like a channel where you can ask candidates questions. And then there will be an election next week, next Sunday on this call. We'll have the election live. Some of the cash relief advocacy actions happening right now. These are the running ones that have been going on, but I like to keep them here so you can always come in and grab the links from our slides. Got a petition, calling your representatives, writing them, and then a really great one is writing the letters to the editor, which goes out to your local publications to also to help inform the public and get the conversation started outside of only congressional pressure so that other people start pressuring as well. Oh no, I always do this. Okay. Can you see the slides okay? Yes. All right. If you want to do the calls and all of that, but you're a little nervous to do it by yourself, there is a community event that you can join with some other folks also putting on the pressure. You can get on there and write letters together, call together, tell your stories, get some moral support. A really great site for some Twitter bling for all your UBI posts. And then there's the 100 Mayors in 100 Days campaign started. So if you're in a city that you think your mayor should get on the Mayors for a Guaranteed Income, but isn't, and you think there's an opportunity there, Income Movement has started a really great site to become a city host. So you can basically start putting the pressure and trying to get your mayor to join. There's the quarterly State of the Movement from Income Movement coming up on Tuesday, March 9th. So this is where they review everything happening in the basic income community. It's a bigger call, more public facing, but it is still on that normal Tuesday night, which we have that weekly running meeting every week with Income Movement. If you want to find out more details about any of the actions I've talked about, hopping on that call is a really great place to go. People's Action, if you miss phone banking, I know you probably don't, but if you miss phone banking, People's Action is still doing deep canvassing for COVID relief. They have a phone bank on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So if you want to dive in and do that, another way to pressure for do some cash advocacy, that's an option. And then if you are a small business owner, calling all small business owners, Humanity Forward is looking for your testimonials, video or written, about how reoccurring cash payments right now would help your business in the pandemic to survive, to thrive, anything like that. So they're going to be using these videos as part of their lobbying effort on Capitol Hill. So if you know anybody that's a small business owner, encourage them to submit a testimonial, or if you are, submit a testimonial. It's a great opportunity to be involved in that lobbying effort and have your voice out there. If you're curious about Yang's campaign, here are all the links. Yang for New York, they have a weekly call on Sundays at 1 p.m. that you can hop on to kind of find out what's happening, and that's the quickest and easiest way to plug into that campaign. All right. Now, I am done mumbo jumboing through all of this, unless anybody has any questions about any of those advocacies. But we can jump right into Yenni. Welcome, Yenni, our very own OG Yang Gang.
Hi, everyone. It's weird to be on here as a candidate. But I'm Yenni Desroches. I am running for Worcester City Council in District 5, which is our west side of town. We're the second largest city in New England. Both just happen to be in Massachusetts because New England is tiny. But even though we're small, we've got a lot of people here that I need to reach. So I'm hoping to have your support through all of that. So I've got a list here of the volunteer needs. I think I put these slides in a little bit of out of order, but what I'm mostly working on right now, if you could go to the next slide and then back to this one, that works. So I've got this set of initial policies that I've put up on my website, different things that I think that we need to make progress on. We have major sidewalk problems creating a issue with people who walk places. They just put out the new list of items that need to be fixed in the city that are on this year's agenda, and one of them's from 1997, which I'm sure is older than some of the people that are here watching. So I feel like we need to do better. We also need to give people the way to track it so that they don't go like, hey, I reported this and it got voted on in 97. Why is my sidewalk still not fixed? We also need to improve our bus system. Right now, we're fare free for COVID. We need to make that permanent. And the reason for that is to make sure that everyone can access where they need to get to. The other problem with getting people to where they need to get to is that the bus line routes currently are not configured to get people places efficiently and quickly. It can sometimes take 2+ hours on a bus to walk what would be a 20-minute walk. Then we also have issues with our traffic lights. The time to get from one end of town to the other is very long. And if we readapt our light timing so that they're using a automated system that can adjust on the fly, we'll have a far better chance of being able to move people across the city efficiently and quickly. And then infrastructure wise, 30% of our city does not have access to broadband speeds for internet. And the situation we have with Spectrum is difficult. It leaves a lot to be desired. We need a lot of infrastructure changes around it, but we also need a system that is accessible to everybody. Part of that solution is creating a municipal broadband system that has worked in a number of other cities and towns across the state. The street cleaning comment that I have here, this one is about our snow plowing, our spring yard waste, our fall leaf pickup. Right now, the way they do it is you have a ban. You can't park in an area for a certain amount of time. And generally, that means you have to park very far away from your house if you don't have a driveway. That makes it very difficult for people to comply with, especially if they have disabilities. And it's not necessarily safe in some parts of the city. But not having the sidewalks to walk back on also causes more problems with it. And the way we can fix that is by evaluating different options, one of which is doing a alternate sides parking. New York City has this. If you want to look at like one of the big examples of it, it's where you say you have a parking ban on this side of the street for XYZ days, and then on the other side of the street for ABC days. The way this could be done for spring and leaf pickup is they just go down one side of the street, and then another day they do the other, where they don't have to have the signs up for a week saying you can't park in your entire trash zone, where we only have 5 trash zones. It makes it a really difficult time being able to stay without tickets on your car. we have run afoul of that a couple of times because the signs were up for a week before they did it. So then we also have a major problem in the city with all of our construction projects. The fixing of the sidewalks, the fixing of our traffic lights, we just got a ballpark, the Woo Sox, which is the, I believe, AA, AAA. I don't remember. I'm not a baseball person. It's the minor league team for, is it AAA? Yeah, AAA. For the Red Sox. They've built a stadium here in Worcester. They're moving into town. And the stadium is the most expensive yet smallest park in the league. And it has run both over time and over budget, not just because of COVID-related timing issues. There have been significant setbacks that make them go, oh, we need another $14 million that we just loaned them from taxpayer money. That needs to not fall on the city. That needs to be something that we tell construction companies that you have to do this on time and on budget. And if you do it on time or early, you get this a little bit extra. That way it gives them incentive to make sure that it gets done on time. Because we need to also emphasize that we're not a bank for these construction companies. And unfortunately, a lot of the projects that end up happening, they end up going longer and longer because they haven't evaluated the situation correctly in terms of being able to get it done on time. So that's kind of some of the things that I want to work on as far as infrastructure goes. Accessibility wise, these are a little bit shorter. We do not have enough coverage for our special needs students, nor do we have enough coverage of mental health care professionals, especially going into a world post-COVID where students have not been in school for a year plus, there is going to be some significant changes that need to be made for their lives to feel normal again. And a lot of them, that's going to take therapy. That's going to take being retaught how to interact with other people in real life, because everything's happening online right now. And that's just an across the board thing. We do not have enough mental health professionals in our schools. Thankfully, the city manager has just put out a thing to shut up. The city manager has just put up a thing to remove school resource officers, which for every school resource officer we remove from the school system, we can hire 2 mental health professionals, which is a far better spend of that money. The transportation that we have in the city, as I mentioned with the buses, is an issue, but we also do not have sufficient coverage for paratransit users. We have some systems in place, but they have to be pre-scheduled. They're group buses. So if you're trying to go to the grocery store, you could end up in the car with your groceries for another hour after you've picked up the groceries before you get dropped off at home, which makes it very difficult to do those kinds of trips. It makes sense if you're going to work, things like that, but we don't have the need for that, and that is something that is being evaluated in conjunction with a program that's being done in Marlborough, which I think is a great step, and we need to continue making progress on that. In terms of the website and our digital space, we have a very, very opaque system. The website is, for all intents and purposes, a maze. It looks pretty, but it is very difficult for a neurotypical person with perfect vision to navigate. And it makes it even more difficult if somebody has mental, physical impairments that contribute to having difficulty finding things on a screen, especially dyslexia. The site also does not have compatibility with screen readers. So people who are vision impaired can't navigate the website, and that is very difficult for people to get involved in their local government, but it also makes it difficult to have that on the city's website. So the changes that need to be made across the site will help everybody, but it also really helps people who are using screen readers, especially with the attachments to the city council agendas, because those are shown in Laserfiche, which is completely not readable by a screen reader. We also need to make sure that the website is showing the information that we need to show to people. We need to have the ability for somebody to go on there and say, I reported this sidewalk as broken 2 years ago. What's the status on it? Without having to contact their city councilor. And then the city councilor has to contact the office. Then the office has to get back to the city councilor. And then the city councilor get back to the constituent. It's a lot of effort that doesn't need to be there for things that technology can handle for us. So those are my primary 9 that I'm starting off with. If you could go back to, well, I mean, that one works too, but yeah. So where I'm at right now with my campaign, I'm getting ready to kick off a listening tour. I'm going to be having neighborhood town hall meetings with each of the precincts. Everyone who has voted since 2014 is going to be getting an invitation to it. Unfortunately, the direct mail, they use EDDM for every door direct mail, is taking 3 to 6 weeks for delivery right now. Thank you, post office. Otherwise, I would be inviting everybody, but everyone's welcome to come to them. And the goal of those is to hear from people what they want to see from the city, because I have my experience. I know what I want, what I need, what my neighborhood needs, because I am right in Newton Square. So I know that we're having issues at Duffy Field. We don't want the turf park. But we do need more turf fields in the city, so we need to address that in a larger way. But I don't necessarily know what's going on for the people who are down in Hadwin Park, aside from an intersection that bugs me every time I drive through it. It's actually a dangerous intersection. It's not just a bug me, but the goal of this is also to get people to pledge to sign my nomination forms. I have to get 100 signatures by mid-May, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you can't go door to door, it makes it very difficult. So what I'm going to be kicking off in a couple of weeks is phone banking. So yes, I know everyone, their most favorite thing, phone banking. This time, I want to make it as comfortable as possible for people. I understand that it can be a little disheartening when you don't get someone on the phone. So we are going to be leaving voicemails to invite people to the town halls and to schedule appointments for me to come by and get their signatures on the form. I'm also looking for people to help out with a wide variety of other things on the campaign. You can see the list there. Basically, if there's anything that you would like to explore working on a campaign doing, we can use your help. A local campaign does not have the benefit of being as sexy as a state level or a national level in terms of drawing volunteers. So what you do for a campaign like mine will have major direct impact if you donate to my campaign. My current goal right now to get that initial listening tour mailers out is $5,542. I'm currently less than a tenth of the way there. And the money that you give to me for that kind of initiative, even 10, 20 bucks can go a really long way in a small local campaign. And I would appreciate it very much, any donations that you have that you can give me for that. I'm also in the process of seeking out endorsements. I'm getting in touch with different organizations, talking to their memberships about what their memberships find important to them, similar to how I'm doing the town halls, with the goal of being able to apply for endorsements from those organizations. And then if you could go to the third slide. So I have a number of upcoming events. I am going on the Matt Skidmore, formerly Zach and Matt show on Monday. I'll be on the Melody to Council of Yang on Tuesday, Trickle Up on Wednesday. And then on Thursday, I have my first major fundraiser. We are doing a first aid CPR course for pets. So making sure that you know how to take care of a pet in an emergency to be able to get it to a vet quickly and efficiently without damage to you and without getting blood everywhere if blood's involved. It was an invaluable training for me that I went through. The certification is about a 6-hour course. This is only an hour overview, but it even beyond being a small business owner and having next level pet care and having that certification for 6 years, it constantly was helpful for me just being out and about. There were 3 different times where I encountered dogs that had been hit by cars that were limping on the road, and I had to figure out how to get them, pick them up, put them in my car, and all of that. And thankfully, I have a seat protector in the back for dogs. But there's a lot of different ways that you can help a dog into the car without hurting it further and things like that that are really helpful, as well as just knowing what kinds of foods and things like that are dangerous for dogs and cats. Then on Friday, I'm going to be on the Yang Gang Roundtable podcast. And on Saturday, the 6th, so this is like just over a week later, I have a second fundraising event. It's Tea Brewing and Mindfulness with Tea Tell Truth. Gia Lee is a immigrant from the Yunnan province in China, and her mother and her have always been involved in tea there. And when she came here, she is also sharing that information with us as well. She has a company called Tea Tell Truth. Everyone who signs up at the attendee level or higher on that one will get a delivery as long as you sign up by the 27th, Oh, I forgot to change the date on the Young Gang Roundtable podcast. That should be the 27th. Sorry about that, 6th. Anyway, the anyone who gets in at the attendee level or higher gets 2 samples of tea in the mail, as long as you sign up by the 27th, the Saturday before. That way they can be mailed to you with an appropriate amount of time to get them for the class. And any level that you donate above the attendee level sponsors somebody else who cannot necessarily afford to attend. And that it also applies to the first aid CPR class. So anybody who, even $5 more, it all helps together to be able to make sure that people can attend these events, because there's great information from both of these people that are presenting these with me. And I have found a lot of help from the tea brewing side of things. It treats tea as more than just, I'm making a pot of tea and I'm drinking it. It's the act of brewing. It's keeping in mind and almost using it in a meditative way to kind of calm down, which is super amazingly helpful when you're running a mile a minute, or you're stressed from your day, or COVID's getting you down. It is amazing. And then on Monday the 8th, we have our first scheduled phone bank. That is the phone banking that I was talking about earlier, where we're going to be inviting people to those neighborhood town halls and getting them to sign, to pledge to sign my nomination forms. So if you're able to make it to any of those 3 sessions, we would absolutely love to have you. We are going to be doing it not through a dialer, so that we can leave voicemails. So we will be asking people to either use their own phone or sign up for a Google Voice number. And that is the wrap on the slides. I know that took a little bit, so I just dumped a lot of information on y'all. Have at it with the questions.
Yeah, so our normal method is to either, raise your hand in the little Zoom. If you go into reactions, you'll see a raise hand option, or you can also write Zoom hand into the chat, and we'll start with, ideally 1 question at a time from a person, and then if we get through everybody, we can come back around for second questions. But while I let people figure, okay, we're good. We'll let Catherine start.
Hey, Yenni. I'm wondering if you can talk about, what the role of a city councilor is versus, so like, what are your constituents getting from a city councilor? Because sometimes I feel like when I'm voting for people at the city level, I don't quite know what they can do and not do.
I'm not entirely sure what's going on with the screen. There we go. That was odd. So the difference between city councils in different areas changes based on how your city council is set up. So our city council is a strong city manager, weak mayor system. So our city manager is the one who handles the day-to-day, manages all of the different departments. It's an appointed seat by the city council. And our mayor is the chairperson of the city council and the school committee. The separation between city council and school committee is that the school committee handles everything having to do with the schools. They set their budget, they figure all of that out. Their budget comes to the city council for approval. And sometimes there are other things that cross over as well, in terms of things like what's coming up this week with the school resource officers, which is police officers who are stationed in schools. There's some crossover of items, but they kind of deal with them themselves. Then there's things like the planning board. Right now, we are going through the planning board dealing with the proposed distribution site for Amazon. They want to do they want to have a last mile delivery center just north of here. in Worcester, and the planning board has to follow very specific rules on what it can allow. It is not subjective at all. If a company dots their I's and crosses their T's, they get a sign off from the planning board, which it was very clear that the planning board was not a super fan of that when they were going through the discussions with Amazon. But it is a very like by the books kind of role. Then there's other committees and groups that are also departments and things like that. You can get elected to different commissions. There's a Parks Commission. I think it's Parks, Recreation, and Cemeteries. We have a Library Commission. There's a lot of options there that most cities and towns have, because not everything can get done by the city council. Most of the things that go to committees will come back up to the city council for addressing as a final vote or asking for more information. It'll go back to the committee, things like that. Oh, do you want to, so Catherine's saying in the chat, so what can you offer if you are elected as a city councilor? So I want to make sure that every person in the
I heard your
city
policies. I'm just trying to understand,
Mhm.
you know, there are things that people have this expectation of city councilors, like, we want this, we want that. Like, what are things that are actually in the power if you were to be elected? What are the
Yeah.
kinds of things you can deliver? And what are the kinds of things that are outside that role of city councilor in Worcester, Mass?
So the city council has a number of really big roles. They vote on the budget for the entire city. Anything that has to go through the financial office to get paid out has to get approved by the full city council. The other major thing that the city council sets is tax rates. There is currently 2 tax rates here in Worcester. We have the residential and the business tax rate. There is always this fight on whether or not to go to a single rate. I am against going to a single rate. It would put undue burden on our residential homeowners, because the costs would have to go up to bring the business ones down to meet in the middle for a single rate. It also has been proposed that that might actually decrease the amount of tax revenue the city would get. We have also control over doing all of the appointments to the commissions and the city councilor and those kinds of roles. The actual hiring of people who are in the departments are controlled by the departments, but the people who lead them get appointed. And the other aspect of things that the city council gets to deal with are more social issues as well. So when COVID hit, the city put together a number of different things to help handle it. They partnered with the health department to partner with all of these sorts of outside organizations to create Worcester Together, which was a fund and group that was organized to help make sure that Worcester can get through COVID and the related closures that have to do with it. There's also rules like our public health laws. So right now, this I wasn't even aware of as a pet care business owner, but it is illegal to own a reptile in Worcester without a permit. Not that there are any permits available to get them. There's no permit available for that, but technically it's illegal. So there's a lot of different things that are currently on the books in the laws that make up Worcester that need to be relooked at like that. There's also things that are coming down the line of doing ranked choice voting in Worcester. There's changing the signature count from 100 and 500 for the at-large candidates to 50 because it's COVID. There's a lot of other things. I could just continue to list things, but so who's next up?
We
Ray's next.
Yeah, Ray asked in the chat, as of right now, what are your chances of winning? 1, running unopposed. 2, longer than a long shot, blue hat, or somewhere in between.
So I am currently running for a non-incumbent seat. The incumbent has decided to run at large. So I'm currently running against Tatel Hassaj. Well, I screwed up her last name again. Haxiaj. I have to figure out exactly how to pronounce her name. I always get it wrong. But and then there's another person that pulled papers, Wayne Griffin, and him getting into the race. He hasn't technically announced yet. He doesn't have a campaign finance account with the state yet either. So it's still not entirely sure if he's running yet, but he was a city councilor in 91 to 97. And if he enters the race, it's going to put us into doing a preliminary election in September. That actually gives me a higher chance of winning if there's a third person in and having to do the preliminary election, because it goes down to 2 people for the general election, and then whoever wins that gets the seat. But with about a little over 12,000 registered voters in my district, the amount of outreach that I need to do to make people aware of who I am, it is extremely doable, especially with the help of people who have volunteered on a lot of other campaigns in the past.
I just want to pop a quick question. What does the turnout typically look like for a city councilor?
We had a 23% turnout last cycle for my district. The lowest precinct in the city was 8%.
How many people is that in total?
Like
ballpark.
I think it's about 7,000 or so that turned up at the polls in November 2019 for the last municipal election.
Awesome. You had your hand up and then went down briefly, Catherine. Did you have a
yeah,
question?
you asked my question is like,
Oh,
what's the win number, and just I guess.
Yeah, win number wise, I have a number that's in the mid 3,000s.
Nice. I guess another question. Oops, sorry.
Oh, you go and then I'll ask.
Another question is, just for the benefit of other, folks that might be considering, running as a local candidate. I know you looked at a lot of, you made a lot of choices on like the platforms you used and, some of the outreach. And so I'm wondering if you would kind of share some of the tools that you recommend to other candidates running, even in other states, anywhere around the country.
Yeah, so one of the initial decisions that I had to make, because my family is Republican, they likely would have put hackles up trying to put in payment information into Act Blue. And as somebody who's running for a nonpartisan seat, I wanted to make sure that it was comfortable for everybody on both sides to donate to me. So I went with a platform called Anadot. It has a bit more features than Act Blue does. It also has direct deposit, where Act Blue actually apparently sends you a check in the mail for you to deposit yourself, which is odd to me in this day and age, but that's most of the democratic tools is behind the times. So when I went to start evaluating voter count, I went direct to my city. I asked them for all of the voter lists and files, and I started analyzing them in spreadsheets before I was able to get VAN. And NGP VAN is kind of something you can't really get away from unless you're using something like Nation Builder or things like that that are not from the not from your state party. The Republicans have one as well, and they typically use Nation Builder. right now, apparently. I am using Van because I'm Democrat, so it was just easy for me to get. That cost me about 6,000. My state rep, it's about 12,000. So the number varies depending on what seat you have, how many voters you have in your area, things like that. And then the other tools that I'm using are, instead of using MailChimp, which doesn't tie into other networked products, I have a tool called EngageBay, which is a sales platform. It's similar to HubSpot, but it has a couple of additional features that I really liked to be included in that, which allows me to put it out there saying, hey, book an appointment with me, like Calendly, but it ties people back into that same system, tracking how many contacts I have with them. There's also a phone banking system that you can connect through there. So scripts can be put through there and contact information, things like that, which is super handy because when you're looking at this from a business standpoint, you really need to be able to track every touch you have with a person. Touch is a weird word in that regard, but not actually touching, but like speaking with, it's a marketing term. And generally it takes about 6 times for people to be contacted about or introduced to information about somebody or a company for them to take action on that information. So being able to track that and how many times you've gotten in contact with people is super helpful, especially in a small local race where you can really dig in and look at individual people and try and convince them individually. The other tool that I'm using that for is my mailing lists. It similarly allows me to track it all in the same place, which is, again, handy. The other suggestions that I have for people is to make sure that they have enough information to run. There's a group with Emily's List called Run for Something. They have a tool on, I believe it's on their website, it might be on Emily's List, that gives you the ability to check what seats are available for you to run in your area. So you can see what's coming up that you might want to run for a seat of. And Run for Something is particularly focused on young female candidates, first time, second time candidates, people who have not been in office yet, things like that. And then one of the other things that I keep mentioning these, and I brought them up in the Nerds for Humanity interview yesterday. There's 2 different books that I significantly recommend to anyone who's getting involved with politics and the organizing side. They are The Victory Lab and The Political Brain. The Victory Lab is a post-Obama look at how data has been used and analyzed and the scientific studies that have been done around it in terms of how to reach voters in a way that actually connects with them and gets them to do what you want them to do, which is vote for a person. It goes into a lot of different studies over the course of from the early 1900s through Obama's election, and goes into details of if the information is given to this person with aggressive wording versus casual versus like mamby-pamby kind of language. They study like all of the different bits of that. And some of my outreach related to my listening sessions is organized around that information because it's about empowering people to come out to events. The Political Brain is a pre-Obama, I believe, book. I haven't gotten to the end of the book yet. I'm about 2 chapters away from the end of it. I'm listening to it on Audible. So is The Victory Lab. Both of them have fantastic narrators. But so the political brain is about how the wording and messaging that is used in political spaces is different from how the brain interacts with regular marketing messaging. It goes through all of the different details of it from a psychological perspective on a variety of different issues. And it, for the most part, is very critical of democratic messaging because it sees a way that the wording could have been different here and that could have affected change and gotten somebody in the seat that wasn't there. So things that could have changed when Gore was running, things that he could have said differently that might have had an effect in a way that it would actually interact with people's brains in the right way. So I strongly recommend both of those books.
Awesome. We have a question in the chat from Hannah as well.
Mhm.
Shall I read?
Yeah.
Which
Or unless
community?
Hannah wants to say it.
I'll read it. Which communities / affiliations / demographics are you targeting? What is your connection to those communities?
The communities I'm most affiliated with are my neighborhood watch. I'm connected with Mutual Aid Worcester. I'm connected with a number of the religious organizations, and a lot of them I'm kind of a member of, not necessarily a vocal part of, but I meet with people that are in those spaces. I was also, as a small business owner, a member of our Chamber of Commerce. So I would go to a lot of those events. I have a lot of people that I know from that world, and I'm going to be doubling down on that by doing a special listening tour for all of the businesses in district to find out from them what they need to succeed in a post-COVID world, because we are rapidly, hopefully rapidly, approaching when things are going to be reopening, when things are going to hopefully start getting a little bit better for people to have money to spend in places. Do that action with income movement and push those things, folks. We really need it everywhere in the country. But it's definitely a big thing for me to reach out to the small businesses, because as a small business owner, I can understand I had to close my business in March of last year permanently, both due to personal health issues as well as just the business was not going to make it through COVID. The pet care industry has lost almost 60% of our businesses, according to 2 of our professional organizations. And it has devastated the incomes of millions of people. So many businesses have had to either close temporarily with the prayer that they can open again, or they have to close their doors permanently. And that is an extremely emotional situation to go through, trying to figure out which way will work for any individual business. Worcester has lost 30% of our restaurants. And that was as of, I believe it was 2 or 3 months ago. And in the fall, there was a study that came out saying that 42% of our jobs are not coming back. It's probably far higher than that. And it's going to continue increasing as things continue to change and people don't have the money to spend in businesses. Businesses are going to go out of business. So that's a network that I hope to tap into a lot. And then I'm also part of the pet care community. So I have gotten very involved with pet related things in Worcester. So I was part of the group that was pushing for us to get dog parks back in 2015 and 2016. We have 3 dog parks in Worcester. They created a master plan and then they twiddled their thumbs and the master plan's just sitting there. We were supposed to have another 6 dog parks by now. The other issues with the dog parks are the fact that they didn't use clean fill. So there's constantly glass and other broken things coming up through the dirt. and there's no water at these parks. So without the water there, we cannot get grants from organizations to improve or add new parks, because the city is not allowing us to put water at the parks because homeless people might wash themselves in it. Yeah, that's actually a concern that they pushed back on it from, and they said no because of that, which is, it's sad that we have people who are homeless that need to do that in the first place. We should be fixing that, not preventing water from being somewhere. But we have a lot of things that need to improve about how we do master plans in general, because they're not actually a, we're going to do this thing. It's a, this is our vision and we might touch it again in the future. So the name master plan confuses a lot of people in that regard. But I have been active running the Friends of Worcester Dog Parks Facebook group and page, and I had hoped to have a organization kind of like a little league field team community group by now, but unfortunately all of the organizing efforts on that end have not been fruitful so far. But part of the reason why I want to bring that to the city council is to be that voice for that community, even though it's not coming together like a little league team, which was what the city had initially wanted to come out of that.
Yeah,
Yep.
so quiet today for some reason. Thanks. We are at the 9:30 mark, so I just wanted to check in on your time for.
Yeah, I'm absolutely fine. Tara's
I
asleep.
figured.
I'm good.
Catherine does have her hand up then, so I'll pass it over to her real quick.
So what do you see as, Worcester's economic future? We'll kind of set the kind of COVID recovery that's going to have to require big government federal intervention to help. But, like, how do you see Worcester developing in a way that kind of creates it as a great place to live, like economically and, any other dimension you want to talk about?
Okay. I think that the ballpark coming into town is going to help with the recovery. A lot of people are upset with the ballpark. It's here. We've already sunk the money into it. We need to finish the project. We need to have the team be able to play. It's not sinking good money after bad. It's sinking, oh, we really didn't want to spend this money. But it'll definitely be a boon to that part of the city. We also have a lot of developers coming in from outside of town. We've got people coming in from Boston. We've got a developer that just expanded into a number of additional buildings that is from New Jersey. And these companies are all coming in here because Worcester is so inexpensive to buy property. My zip code was one of the hottest zip codes over the summer, according to Zillow. So we have a lot of people coming in and buying things that are not necessarily in the city's best interest. One of the housing communities that the apartment buildings that was built downtown near the bus station and Union Station, which is the commuter rail into Boston, they're charging $18.50 for a studio apartment. That's more than I charge for my 3-bedroom. As a owner-occupied landlord and somebody who believes in being a humanity first landlord, I want that to catch on. I don't believe in charging somebody a ridiculous amount of money for a very small amount of space just because it's less expensive than they'd be paying in Boston. And that's actually a lot of the pricing that's happening now is for people who are moving out of Boston. It's less expensive for them, but it's extremely expensive for people who live here. And it has, thankfully, due to COVID, it hasn't affected as much, but prices are still going up. What used to be a $1,000 apartment for my second floor, due to tax rate increases and things like that, it's at $12.50, $13.50. Some places do 2 beds for $14.50. That's my 3-bed. We basically charge enough to be able to cover what it needs to cover. We're not looking to use it as a make rich scheme, but I have a lot of experience with properties because my family owns a number of them in New York City. So that's I sidetracked. The other economic aspects are we need to make sure that the projects we're building are not going to cause major funding problems or major gentrification issues where people who have grown up here and lived here for their whole lives are getting priced out of their neighborhoods. We need to protect our neighborhoods from major changes that would be detrimental. There are always going to be good changes, important changes to make, but we need to do that respectfully.
Thanks. Our next question is Kevin.
As a follow-up to Catherine's question, are there any burgeoning industries developing in Worcester that you're aware of?
Restaurants are really a big thing here. Really big thing. The fact that we've lost 30% and still have anywhere near as many as we have is fantastic, but it's going to take a bit to rebuild from that. But we have a lot of innovative places. People from Boston actually travel out to Worcester to come to our restaurants because we have such diversity. Unfortunately, one of my favorite ones that are in that diverse category has closed permanently. It was a Afghani restaurant that had amazing food. I was really sad to see that one left. My favorite Chinese food place closed as well. The other sides of things that are coming into town, we have a little bit of manufacturing and distribution and shipping stuff that is growing. We have the Port of Worcester, which that name is weird to me because we don't have a water like port. It's just trucking and busing, but and trains. We also have a number of tech companies that are working on things coming out of the colleges here. So we've got Worcester Polytech, we've got WPI, we have Becker College, which has a game development program. There's a lot of programs at the other colleges and universities in the city that are tech oriented. So that's kind of growing by the nature of the colleges having students that want to do that and want to stay here. We have some incubator programs that they can go into for that. And we also have a lot of biomed. So we have one of the research facilities for the vaccine is here in Worcester. Then that's at the University of Massachusetts, UMass University. I don't think there's a specific name for that one, but and I'm seeing in the chat, what are the colleges? We have 11. I usually end up missing one. We have, in my district, we have Worcester State. Nearby, we have Becker, WPI, and Assumption. A little bit further out into the city, we've got Quinsigamond Community College. We have Salter College, which is technically not in Worcester, it's just outside of. We have Holy Cross. I need to memorize that list. Yeah, phone a friend. Pavel, you know the education side of things in the Worcester area. Maybe you can tell me what ones I missed. Oh yes, Clark. Clark is a big one. They actually have a political science major as well. So I've been in touch with them about that. And then you mentioned here Moderna. I actually am not sure which vaccine they're working on. I think it's Moderna, but I'm not positive on that.
All right. Are we good on that question? Right. I believe you had something to add, Corey, about fundraising, as I told the segue to you.
Oh, yeah. I do. So I am a volunteer on the campaign, and what my role right now is sort of working on our fundraising messaging and just trying to pull people in. Unlike elections that are flashier, we have to work a little bit harder to get those donations. We're trying to get $150 a day, but also do events and really get people engaged through making small donations that help us. The main reason we need donations right now is we are building things. So we need not only donations for mailers, which are going to get us votes and exposure, and really money in this parameter is a tool that we can use to sort of get people more comfortable with Yenni and the campaign messaging, because right now that's the main issue we seem to be having, is just connecting to voters, being engaged, and how we're going to be able to do that is not just one mailer, but a continued effort where our campaign and Yenni's messages are so connected with people and regular that it's more likely that they will vote for us. We can't just do one and be done. So that is the reason why we have such an ambitious goal. Some would say, well, why, over $5,000? Well, not only do we have to make these mailers, but we have to really, Yenni being such an expert with digital marketing, we have to do a good job, and we have to really get a lot of different, you saw how many different talking points, how many things are happening in the city, and how low engagement there is. So part of what this money is going to be used to is get some excitement, get people engaged. We need people to be engaged. We need people to be voting. So people hate to talk about money, but I love it because money is what helps you win. And we're in it to win it. So, and I love asking people for money. So, some people feel bad about it, but to me, the work we're doing is good. Money is a tool for us to get as close to winning or winning, which is my preference. So if you love to talk about money and fundraising like I do, I'm happy to talk with anyone. Yes, anybody that wants to make a recurring donation, or a less fancy way to say that would be a monthly pledge, is my best friend. We can go, you can quote me on that, because I'll get a necklace and everything. But seriously, we do have a little bit of an uphill battle with fundraising because we are, at the city council level, there's a little less automatic giving. So my main push is just for us to continue to get money so that we can get exposure, get our name out there, and really remind people that they need to vote in this election, because the amount of people that are voting is so low that we've got some work to do there. So it's getting money so that we can get not only the win, but just get people engaged. 23% made me a little sick the first time I heard that. I think people will vote. I just think they need a push, and I'm happy to raise as much money to create that push. I wholeheartedly believe we can win, and I'm happy to be a volunteer on this campaign. If you think that you have a way that you can contribute, we really need your support. This is a volunteer-based campaign. We don't have a bunch of staffers that are going to do all the stuff. Probably, if you have an idea, either you have to do it or we have to work together, because it's a small, awesome team. And if you want to join the team, we would love, all capital yelling, to have you on the team, because I know there's a ton of smart, nerdy Yang Gang members who have a lot of expertise, and we could use you. especially in filmmaking, voter outreach, things like that, and fundraising, but also just coming to events, being excited, posting things on your social media, stuff like that. We need to get more likes on our Facebook page and more interaction with people. So if you love social media, I can't do it, but if you can, please reach out to us because we would love to have you do that. I am not cool enough to do that, but if you are, please, we could really use your support and anything, donating, time, just excitement. We could use it all. I'm pretty excited. But if you have any questions or you want to follow up with me, you can message me. I can also give you an email that you can ask follow-up questions about fundraising and what our goals are long-term.
I love the enthusiasm and I love that you don't shy away from fundraising because so many people are scared to ask for money, but it's probably the most important ask you can make. So all the props to you.
Thank you, Corey. That was great.
I want to round us back out then because I do have a chat from Keith, a question from Keith in the chat.
Okay.
That we can kind of move unless anything else comes up. Is there anything in particular that has surprised you or caught your attention about the way Worcester as a city, community, or government has responded to the pandemic?
I think that there's Worcester Together Fund was a really great thing that got put together that was mostly run by the health department and about 10 different organizations here in Worcester. And we have an additional, I don't know, I think 20 organizations that have participated in it. While I was helping with the Mutual Aid Worcester project, I was on some of those calls, and the people who were in those calls were doing amazing work together. It wasn't necessarily that the city itself was running that, but the city was involved in it. The other things that really surprised me was how low our rates were as a city. We did not have as much of a blowout as other places have. We just got back down to our spring high. So things are on that decrease curve again, but we've still got a long way to go with that. And a number of the things that the city has done is to help small businesses with financial grants and things like that through the CARES Act money. I wish that there was more at the city level that really could be done to help with COVID and recovery. Recovery can definitely be helped by city initiatives, but the right now of dealing with COVID, it's really difficult for anything to affect that unless it's on a state or national level scale.
Awesome. Thanks. And I've had my question that I've been holding off on for a little while as I ask others. So I'll throw it out there real quick now. It's more just like kind of a personal one / like advicey one, which is like, what was kind of the moment you decided like, hey, I want to run for city council and like I can run for city council and like I know that I could do this, because I feel like in the Yang Gang there's a lot of us who are kind of like on that fence of just getting engaged in politics, wondering if it's something we would want to go more into more deeply, things like that. So I would love to know your journey there.
I kind of wanted to go into politics in some way without really realizing it growing up. My father was on the school committee, and when Hamilton came out and I was listening to the music, my shot really spoke to me, and room where it happened spoke to me in terms of like, I want to know what's going on in these places. So I started getting invested and looking into and learning things. And what I found with the city was the dog parks issue and making sure that dogs could be on leash in parks. That led me to learning a lot more about how the city level government works. And it surprised me how laid back city politics are. It's a part-time job, pretty much, for most people who are in the seat. For me, it would be my full-time job. It honestly would be more than I pulled down ever as an adult. And at 33, that's odd. But the thing that really made me go, I want to get involved here locally, was the dog park side of things. And then I was trying to decide where I would go to getting into the city politics. And I was going to go onto a commission for the Parks, Recreation, Cemeteries Commission. Then I would run for school committee once I had kids. Unfortunately, we do not have kids yet. We'll be adopting hopefully in the near future, but then go from school committee to city council. And while I was trying to figure all of that, life was happening. And I met my state senator, Harriet Chandler, who at a chamber event, she was speaking. I went up to her to talk to her afterwards. She went on that path. She went from school committee to city council to state rep to state senator. And I don't necessarily know if I want to go up to state level, but her advice to me when I started going through was, don't worry about that. You don't need to pay your dues, just do it. And my brain just goes to the Shia LaBeouf, do it. So it's honestly, take the bull by the horns and go do it. I was still hemming and hawing after that. And then in September of 2019, I went into the hospital for what was supposed to be a routine surgery. Unfortunately, I almost did not make it out of the surgery room, and then had an additional issue that night. I had to go back into surgery, and additionally almost didn't make it out of there again. So since then, I've had this sense of, if not now, when? And if I don't have like all of the little nitty gritty things to actually go for it, that's okay. I can figure them out. And that's actually something that happens not just for deciding to run for office, for people who are trying to get raises at work. Unfortunately, this is a gendered related study that had been done with it, but women tend to not ask for as much. And when they're applying for jobs, they tend to look at the criteria, and if they don't meet like 90% of it, they don't apply. Whereas men in the studies have done, if they meet like 50%, they'll apply for the job. So it's you need to give yourself permission to not know everything.
Love that. Thanks, Yenni. Any other final questions in the chat or from anybody at the moment? Or otherwise we can close off, go off live, and then maybe you have a questions you want to ask once we're not live. I don't know.
I'm down to hang out. So.
All right. Well, I'll take us off of the YouTube stream for now. So
Okay.
goodbye.
Just as a parting, if you could go back to the volunteer slide.
Yes. Give me a second to bring it up. Good call. Share screen. The volunteer slide was this.
Yep.
Here. Perfect.
So you can find me on social media, Facebook and Twitter. My information is right there. My website is continuing to grow and have more information on it. As I get more policies and more details about the policies, I'll be breaking it out into actually having a issues page. So check that out. I've actually gotten a lot of compliments on my website. Thank you, Keith. That is Aria, who is also the person who designed the HFM website. Aria is doing an amazing job, and he is absolutely killing it with my website. I'm getting compliments from like everyone who's running for office in Worcester. So the donation link is there again. If somebody could drop that in the chat as well again. I would absolutely love to have you on our donor list, even if it is a small amount. If you can donate 50, amazing, love you. If you can donate 25, that is fantastic. Even if you can only donate 5, that is helpful too. Every little bit adds up. And I would love to have your support in that way. If you do not have the financial ability, we also always need people to volunteer. Even if it is something as simple as you've got a couple hours and you can take photos of my business card collection and turn them into items on a spreadsheet. If you've got like 20-30 minutes and you want to open up each image has like 6 to 8 cards on it, and you want to do a little bit of that, love it. Happy to have you get involved at that level. But we also have other things. I have people that are doing research onto different things, so I don't know all that much about what's going on in the educational sector, so Pavel is helping me out with that. I have need for a whole bunch of different other issues as well, so I'd love to have your help there. And then obviously always social media, writing and editing, letters to the editor, getting content for my website, all of that I need help with. I am not great with grammar, so editors are super helpful. Even if it's just a once a week, you check out the email newsletter or whatever before it goes out and you make sure that I don't have errors in it. Things like that would be super helpful too. And always follow me and like my stuff, retweet, reshare my stuff. That's always great. And then if you could go 2 slides ahead, join me at these events. My information for accessing all of these is on my website, yenniforcouncil.com. So thank you all for coming tonight. And this was a lot of fun, even if it was a little odd being the person being interviewed on here after a year of being the interviewer rather than the interviewee. But it's been great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Yenni.
Woohoo! All right. Well, goodbye to live stream world. Thank you all for joining us, and we will be back next Sunday, February 28th, with the board election and another guest of some sort. TBD. All right.